Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Dana.
And welcome to Our Lives Travel. So today we are going to give our full review of our 7-day cruise on MSC Divina.
Yay!
First time on MSC Divina.
Well, first time on MSC altogether.
Oh, first time on MSC altogether, cruise line. So we wanted to try something brand new. They had a great deal. It was time for us to see what MSC was all about.
So I have seen the MSC Divina leaving from Port Canaveral and I always wondered about it, but didn't really know much about MSC. And so it is actually an Italian cruise line. My understanding is it's a family-owned cruise line, and so it is actually a little bit different than what we are accustomed to with the more traditional lines here in the U.S., such as like Disney and Royal Caribbean Carnival.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. So as we review this, we will mention some of the differences that we notice, because I think it's really important to talk about those, because even if you're an avid cruiser, there are some things that may stump you on the MSC cruise line. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this review. And I'm actually going to start before we actually started getting on the ship. Normally we just talk about boarding day and everything, but I'm going to talk to you about booking this cruise, because let me tell you, it was different. If I had to base what I thought this cruise was going to be like based off how the booking the cruise went, I would have canceled this. So I don't really feel like there's any excuse that I can give to MSC for this, but their website is horrendous.
Yeah.
You cannot, once you book the room, you can't really go and check. They have you set up an account and everything, but your room will never hook up to it. So I couldn't go in and look at anything. You can still buy stuff for your room, like drink packages and all that stuff, but it won't be under your login. So people are like, when I log in, I can't see my cruise. You absolutely cannot. The only way to see your cruise is to use your booking number and your name to get to it. So don't even bother making an account, honestly, because you can't use it for much of anything. And even when you go to do your pre-board and stuff and putting your name and your dress and all that stuff in there, because none of that stuff is required to book it. It's so weird. But when you put it in there, if you ever go back to it, how you have to put your passport and all that stuff in there, if you go back to it later on to check it or reprint your e-docs,
it's gone.
Your information is gone.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, I just put this in here. I already had it in there. Where is it? I'm just going to tell you, you're going to have to put your address every time you go and do what they call web checking in. Your address is going to go missing, and you're going to have to repopulate it. So just a tip. This Divina is not a smart ship, so you won't be using an app or anything with it. Which is fine, honestly. I get that, because I'm sure making an older ship a smart ship would take a lot of work. But there's no excuse for that tragedy of a website. So just heads up, it's going to frustrate you.
Yep.
Maybe use a travel agent and let them be frustrated.
So let's get into the boarding day. So we left out of Port Canaveral on our 7-day cruise. First thing that we noticed when we were boarding is the first thing that I noticed when we were boarding is the lack of people that were there to actually board the ship. When you get there and we were pulling up to the porters, there was nobody there. We drove straight in. We actually saw people still sitting there waiting to get picked up from the previous cruise. So what we discovered is that this cruise ship was a 7-day cruise, and MSC is doing 30 to 35% capacity on their 7-day cruises. So that's really why there wasn't that many people there when we got there on the first day.
Yeah, and this is just their 7-day, the longer cruises. So the 3 and the 4-day cruises we hear are booking closer to capacity.
Yes.
But for the longer cruises, which makes sense, right? Because a weekend cruise or a shorter cruise, those are typically, your busier cruises. I think one thing to mention is because it's family owned, MSC's big business, I think, is actually a shipping company.
Yeah.
So I think they're able to move a little bit slower getting back up to full speed than some of the other lines. So that may also explain, maybe they haven't pushed as hard, I'm not sure, to get their 7 days as full. And that kind of also brings me to something that's a little bit different with MSC. So for example, you can book a 10-day on the Divina, but what it actually is a 7-day plus a 3-day. So if you book a 10-day, one of your ports is actually coming back to Port Canaveral to pick up people who are doing a 3-day. So you could have a 10-day and experience low volume, the first 7 days, and then the last 3 days it could be crazy. So it's really interesting. It's different kind of how they do that, which means there's always potential for overlapping.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. Just
we should try that one day. I wonder what that would be like empty ship and then a busy ship.
No, I think I'd rather go the other way.
Okay. Anyways, so getting into embarkation, it was a pretty fast process. I think from the time that we dropped off our bags and went and checked in to actually getting on the ship was only about maybe 20 minutes. Like, it was really fast. However, when we dropped off our bags, I left you there by the bags and then went and parked the car. The parking deck from actually getting onto the ship or getting to check in is actually a really long walk. So just know that whenever you're at the Port Canaveral.
Now, it may be a little different when they're busier, because what they basically did is they closed off all the ground level parking.
Yes.
Like, so they have a parking lot and a parking deck. You couldn't park in the parking lot, which is actually closer to the terminal. Everybody had to park in the parking deck. And so, just to give you an idea, when we say this long, it really is like, I heard one lady ask somebody if there was like a cab or a taxi, and I think she meant maybe a shuttle, from the terminal to the actual parking garage, because it's a lot further a walk than we're used to, for sure. So just heads up. But you can drop people off at the drop off. So Corey did that for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I dropped you off and then parked the car and walked over. So, but then once we got up there, they just standard thing. You stood in a short little line. You checked in. They do the whole picture thing, and then you walked on board. You still have to walk through the terminal, so, a good little hallway. But other than that, I mean, it really wasn't that bad. I didn't feel like.
And so we boarded around, our time was 11 o'clock.
Yep.
So we boarded, I think, around 11 o'clock.
Yeah, we didn't really have to wait.
Nope. And then you're going to want to make sure that all your documents are printed out. They like paper. Yes,
very much. Yeah, as far as paper goes, they definitely need that. They don't have an app. They don't have anything like that. And speaking of the app, or lack of app, I should say, when we got on board, the first thing that we needed to do was to link up our bank card or our card that we were going to put on file with our room key.
Yes.
At the kiosk that was there on deck 6. They had multiple kiosks there that you go and you use your room card and your credit card or whatever it is, and then link them together for your expenses, correct?
Yes. So this is a lot different than probably what you're accustomed to. So typically with other cruise ships, you're allowed to link your credit card up to your room before you sail, or you can actually do it when you go to check in.
Yes.
So on MSC, once you are checked in and you are on board, you have 48 hours to go up to a kiosk, I think they're on deck 5 and 6, and link your card that way. If you don't link it within 48 hours, they're going to shut down your card so you can't spend anything. So what it actually said in the daily newsletter, I guess they give you, is everybody's account has an open $1,000 max on it when you board. So you can spend, buy drinks, and have yourself a good old time. But within that 48 hours, if you haven't linked your card up to it, they will shut your card down.
Yeah.
So what I would encourage is, the minute you get up there, when you first board, there are 2 machines right in the vicinity of where you're boarding at. Go ahead and hook your card up so you don't have to think about it later. If you're going to do cash, my understanding is you have to go to customer service and do cash. So just FYI.
And if you're using a bank card or something, I think you have to put an amount or something like that. Like there's amounts up there you can select.
So credit cards hold, go ahead and do a $250 hold.
Okay.
And that was for 2 people, so I don't know if it's different for 1 person, and I'm not sure about debit cards.
Okay. All right. But yeah, so you have to do that. The other thing that I want to mention is the first thing that I noticed when we got on board was the staff. I felt like the staff was very, very nice everywhere that we walked around.
Absolutely.
So we love the staff that was there. The next thing I want to talk about is the ship. I think the ship is very, very beautiful. The first thing that you notice when you get on board is the Swarovski crystal staircase in the atrium. So beautiful. It's perfect for IG pictures or whatever.
The crystals are actually a lot bigger.
Like
they look like, in general, in other people's videos or stuff that we're seeing, like they're big. Yeah,
they're really, really big crystals in there.
Yeah, but it's beautiful.
Very beautiful. I think they take up 3 decks or something like that right there. You can see those staircases. So after that, we went to check out our room. Maybe we went and got something to eat first. I'm not really sure. But we went to because we went to the little cafe around the corner from there.
So one of the tips I want to mention here, and it may not be as applicable to the 7-day cruise since it didn't have as many people on it. However, one of the things we've talked about before is a lot of people when they first get on the ship, they want to get lunch. And so they typically send you up to their buffet, and it can be really crowded. So as you mentioned, we actually went to I think it's called the Plaza de la something of another. But that's where you could get sandwiches and some desserts and stuff. Yeah. And there was nobody in there. Like we were like literally the only people in there. And maybe 4 or 5 workers. So if you wanted a place to get something light to eat and you didn't want a crowd, that would have been a perfect place. However, because this was a 7-day, I'm sure the buffet wasn't crowded at all either.
Yeah, so, exactly.
But if you go on a 3 or 4 day, you may want to consider going to the plaza to get, just a little something to tide you over.
Yeah. So on this cruise ship, this was the first time that we had ever had an aft balcony. And we were on deck 10, room number 279, I think. 10279, I think is what it was. I can't believe I remember that. I know. But we were first time having an aft balcony. And one of the things that I noticed while we were there throughout the week is that how quiet it was back there. I asked our steward one day how many rooms were actually occupied on this cruise ship. And she told me there were only 7 rooms occupied. There are like 40 rooms on this aft balcony area after you get off the elevator. If you look at the ship map, there are like 40 rooms back there. So only 7 of them were occupied. That's crazy. Like it was very, very quiet when we were back there.
And one thing to know is with the aft balconies, 10 and 11, the balconies are actually elongated, so they're a lot bigger.
Yep.
And then on 13, they're Juliet. I mean, honestly, I don't think they should be sold as balconies. They should be called ocean view because like literally maybe they're 1-2 feet deep. I'm not sure. So just heads up, if you are booking, know that the balconies for the aft on 13 are extremely small. And then 10 is going to be your biggest, 11 is next in line. I think 12 is probably normal.
So it was a huge balcony on our room. So make sure you check out our room tour for this cruise so you can see details about our room. We did like the room though. I thought it was kind of spacious enough. I mean, about the same size as any normal cruise that we had been on before. One of the things that we did notice with this room though is the decor. Felt like the decor needed a little update. Like it's the color scheme and everything is, dark burgundy browns and brass and stuff like that. It needs a little bit of updating on that.
It was a little bit run down. You'll notice from our room video, our cabin tour, you'll see that the furniture was kind of on its way out. It was broke down. It's time to do a little bit of.
It needs some updating.
Refurbishing, Miss Divina.
It was, but it was a fine room. I mean, like the bed slept fantastic.
Yes, the bed. Now it is hard. I won't lie. But okay, so I'll compare these. First of all, I think Royal Caribbean has the worst beds in the world. Carnival is great.
Disney is the best. Yeah.
And so what I'll tell you about, so this is why RCL is bad. They're hard and you wake up and you're sore and you'll be sore for a while.
Right.
Divina, if you sleep long, they kind of hurt a little bit, but the minute you get up, you're fine.
You're fine.
So they weren't as bad as RCL. They were pretty decent.
I felt like I got some of the best sleep that I've gotten on a cruise ship on this bed. It felt really, really well. What was interesting too was the giant mirror that was right there in front of the bed.
Did not love that.
I love a full length mirror, but this thing was gigantic, and you're just staring at yourself while you're in the bed.
Yeah,
it's a little interesting.
Nightmares.
Dude. But they still have the standard, plugs and all that kind of stuff. They don't have any plugs by the bed or USB plugs.
It was an older ship.
We knew that. The shower is interesting with the whole doors that push in, and push out to give you a little bit more quote unquote extra room. It's good for toilet usage, but not necessarily good for taking a shower. And you can see that in our review about that. But there are definitely areas where it needs to be refurbished with rust and
things broke.
So we need a little bit of help there. But overall, it was a fine room. What? Why are you laughing?
I was just thinking about the room tour.
Oh, okay. And the smallest TV I've ever seen on a cruise ship.
Yes, like my iPad.
Yeah, and
It's big and
it got no reception. It was really, really weird. It was like if you flip the channels going up normally, you don't get anything. But if you went backwards,
it had and it was like almost perfect.
Yeah.
You know? It was weird.
it was really, really weird.
know.
Another thing to note about our room, I don't know if we mentioned this or not, is that our aft balcony gets direct sun.
Oh yeah.
On that balcony. So it got really, really, really hot really, really quickly throughout the day. So just know that those aft balconies, even though there is some coverage there, they still get direct sun throughout the day.
And obviously it will depend on the direction in which you're cruising and things
True.
like that. I will say, just because this was our first aft balcony, and some people swear by these. For us, I don't know that we care whether we ever in an aft balcony.
Yes.
Aft balcony. Again, I don't know that, other than hearing the wake. So a lot of people like hearing, when the ship is moving, hearing the noise from all the water and stuff. But you hear that on the side too.
True,
Maybe not as loud.
Yeah.
But I don't really see much of an advantage of being in the back. Maybe here because the balcony was bigger. But even then, it wasn't usable half the time because it was just too dang hot out there.
It was nice in a different view, let's say that.
Yeah, but I felt like we were missing out on whatever was going on the side.
Well, I don't know, because it didn't really seem like there was a whole lot going on anyways.
But like in ports, like you're not, like we're used to having a view.
Oh, well,
of
that's
and
true.
being able to see the port and people walking, so we didn't
That's
get much
true.
of that. And
Yeah.
just, it was different.
That is true. One of the things that we had to do was the muster drill in a very old and archaic way, we will say. Basically, when you had your muster drill, you had to wait until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They had a scheduled time for the muster drill. I think it was 4:50, something like that. And we were on at, 11:30 in the morning. So we were hostage for like several hours before we actually start our cruise, because you had to be in your room for the muster drill. You had to watch a 5-minute video on your television.
Emergency procedures, safety procedures, and the mandatory safety drill comply with SOLAS.
That told you about what you were supposed to do. It was very detailed and a lot different than other muster drill videos that we had ever seen before, to be honest with you. And then you have to call a number, 881. Okay, and confirm that you watched this video.
You need to leave that out because people need to watch it just like we did.
No, because here's the thing. What I realized is that the cruise director would get on the intercom and actually tell you what number that you had to call. So you could easily have been in the bathroom, you could have been on the balcony, you could have not watched the video at all, and just called the number and confirmed that you actually saw it, because there was no real confirmation to prove that you actually saw that video. It really wasn't. So you had to call this number, and then you have to proceed to your muster drill location or your muster station.
Right. Everybody. At the same time.
At the same time. And ours was on deck 7 in the black and white lounge. Now what was interesting was we get down there, we had to scan our CPAS card, each of us, and then the lady proceeds us to just tell us to go around the corner into the lounge. As we proceed into the lounge area, there are about 15 employees standing in there with life vests on. So I'm thinking that we're going in here to see a demonstration on how to put on the life vest. They tell us this is where you're supposed to come, whatever. Nobody.
Which is what they do, by the way,
on other cruise ships.
RCL and Carnival. That's what they did on both of those.
That didn't happen. They were like, they just kept pointing, like, go around, go around, go around. So we were thinking, okay, maybe we have to go to the end of the bar and sit there so other people can come in, because we were the first ones in the lounge area, to get checked in.
We think.
Well, we think we were.
We don't know now.
We go to sit down, and we notice everybody else behind us continues to walk out of the lounge. And we're like, what are we supposed to do? There's no explanation.
There was nothing
at all.
They literally, you just go down, have your card scanned. They want to know that you know where your place is, and then you leave. So this is one reason I actually want to mention why you actually want to pay attention to the video in your room, the safety video. It's since we just did a walkthrough to our station, you didn't see how to put on your life vest. And this life vest may be a little bit different than what you're used to. So for example, I've done life vests where, we're just fastening around their waist, whereas this life vest actually runs between your legs and fastens that way. So that might be different than what you're used to. Also, what they said to do with children. So on other ships we've sailed on, children, they tell you not to go get your children from the kids club, that the kids club will handle and make sure your children are safe.
Yep.
Whereas here, they told you to go get your kids, and I think you're supposed to pick them up at guest
services.
And so I've also noticed there's some differences on different ships. Some tell you to not, if you're not in your room, don't get your life jacket. Just go straight to your tender station and they will have life jackets for you there. Others say go back to your room and get your life jacket. So I honestly think it's important to pay attention to that. So even though, yes, they may have easy ways for you to skip out on it, if something were to happen, you might wish you had watched that video.
It's just one of those things that I just wish there was also another confirmation on how to actually do certain things and what you're supposed to do after you watch that video. Because like I said, it's possible you didn't watch it. So what do you do then? You know what I mean? In case of an emergency. So
you drown because it's your fault.
I mean, according to them, that's what it is. So basically, we just came through we did a ring around the rosy, method of going through this lounge just to see where we were supposed to meet, and that was it. And then we went right back to our room. I mean, it was like 2 seconds, but it was totally unnecessary, I think, in my opinion.